and was booed when she spoke in his behalf.
You very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award. And the reasons for this being are the treatment of American Indians today by the film industry. Excuse me.
2 months ago, the Academy of Motion Pictures apologized for her treatment. BBC News. Hello, welcome. It's Emily Webb here, bringing you today's edition of Outlook. This is the show where we bring you extraordinary stories from real life. And you could say that today's interview is about an act of resistance with the help of a pile of plastic bricks. David Aguilar is a 23-year-old from Andorra, nestled between France and Spain. And he dreamt up an invention as a response to years of bullying and prejudice. David has Poland syndrome, and the prejudice he experienced was directed at what he calls his small arm.
I'm missing one arm. I'm missing also my pec muscle on the right side. And I'm also missing some muscles on the back, so I'm kind of limited in terms of strength, but on mobility-wise, I can just be very, very flexible.
Tell me about the word disabled and why you feel so strongly about it.
I tend to use disabled right now instead of disabled because it's a word that includes everyone. I think we are all differently able. Even if I have only one arm, I believe that disability is thinking that something is impossible just because someone else told you, or just because society considers that having one arm only is considered a disability.
David's first memory of being treated differently comes from when he started school. He was 6 and remembers being surrounded by other children and suddenly feeling like an outsider.
The first day of school, I tried to get some friends to play with. I just tried to be there with them, and they told me that they didn't want to play with me. So that was the first time that I felt different. You're so little, you can get looks, but that didn't matter a lot to me because I wasn't speaking to them directly. I was very shy. But when I started to try and get some confidence, I got pushed back because of my arm.
Tell me a bit more about those looks, because you would get that thing as well, wouldn't you, where you'd be walking down the street and people would just stare.
We are curious beings, so yeah, I mean, sometimes it can get pretty annoying if you don't understand what's behind those looks, you know. It's just pure curiosity, or it's just to select a target to make fun of, you know.
When you were a child, how do you think that you interpreted that? I mean, both the children in the playground excluding you, but also the looks that you get as well. How did you interpret that?
When I was being looked at, and when I was told that, for example, one of the insults that stuck with me was, it's not your fault that you were born like this, it's your mother's fault. Those comments and looks and whatever made me feel like I was nothing. Like if I was so different from the others that I couldn't be with them anymore. At that age, I thought that if I had both arms, I'd probably be a regular kid. I thought that every day. I thought once, maybe it's not me that I'm different, maybe it's everyone else, because I just don't like treating people like they treat me. That's the moment that I decided to change. Instead of being a target, I decided to make myself the target. So I laughed at my own condition, and I prevented people from saying things to me.
I've heard that movies played a big part in how you escaped your reality, because school sounds like it was a pretty tough experience. Tell me a little bit about what you would watch when you go off and watch movies.
I'm a sci-fi guy, you know. I really like space stuff, seeing all those Marvel heroes as well. Watching Iron Man, I thought that I was going to be an inventor when I grew up.
Are you building stuff?
I'm actually going to pause here because Iron Man would go on to play a huge part in David's life. The character first appeared in comic books, but a film version came out when David was about 10 years old. Iron Man is an inventor and scientist played by the American actor Robert Downey Jr. in the movie.
Is it better to be feared or respected? I say. Is it too much to ask for both?
The story goes that he's kidnapped and forced to build a devastating weapon, but instead he designs an armored suit in red and gold and heads out to save the world.
Tony Stark.
He called his suit the Mark I. He's a multi-millionaire arms dealer. He developed a suit for himself to be strong, to make an armor.
I want to protect the
and he ends up becoming a hero against himself because he says that his weapons are used for terrorism.
And you said that you wanted to be an inventor, and one of the ways in which you first started to experiment was through Lego, which are these plastic construction toys. And I hear that the first thing that you built was a replica of the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you?
I was 5, but it was a set, so I just followed the instructions next to my mom. And then I thought, maybe if I change those bricks right here, I can make a speedboat Titanic if you want. So maybe I can do a version of the Titanic that has wings, for example, and that can fly to prevent that iceberg from hitting, you know?
So even on that first construction that you did, you were thinking, like, how can I make this better? What can I do to improve the Titanic?
Well, not to improve, to change the story, or just to be creative and mess around, you know? I just really liked the fact that I had a challenge to use the bricks that I had at home to build whatever I was thinking.
The idea of changing the plot of the Titanic feels really relevant here because David was about to use those Lego bricks to change his own story. It happened by chance when he was working on constructing another design out of these plastic bricks. But as he was using his small arm to keep this new structure in place, he had an idea.
I was trying to build another boat, and I was holding the hull because I started from below. Since it had that round shape, I just tried to close it with something on top of my arm. You know, I didn't have a plan, I didn't have an idea of how to make it. It was a try and error process.
So you were trying to create a new boat, and you were using your smaller arm to sort of help the construction, and you had your arm in the sort of hull of the boat.
Yeah.
And as you were building it, you kind of realized that you could perhaps turn this into an arm rather than turning it into a boat.
That's right. It doesn't even matter how it looked because it was very colorful. It had like yellow, red, white, blue bricks everywhere. So it was very fun to look at, and it was very fun to use it as well. That's how I built my first prosthetic. It just happened. I mean, it was a completely random creation, and it worked. And that was the fun part for me.
This prosthetic David had constructed also had a small pincer at the end that he could operate with his smaller arm and use to pick up objects for the first time.
I wore it at school, and teachers thought that it was a calling to my parents to get a real prosthetic, and it wasn't that. I mean, I just thought it was cool, and that's it.
Why did you not get a prosthetic from a medical company, say?
Well, I decided to try and use my regular arms. My parents told me that if I wanted one, I just had to tell them, but they also knew that if I was wearing a prosthetic, I wouldn't be using my right hand as much. I can really use this little movement on my right arm to do a lot of stuff.
When you would be wearing it at school, how would it make you feel? Why did you want to wear it?
You can imagine how many looks I would get wearing a Lego prosthetic. So it felt different, but at the same time, I was feeling observed. That day, the comments went away for a while, but then the next day, they just told me, hey, why are you trying to cover your hair again? It looks so weird.
So you had a sort of one day of reprieve, and then the bullying started again when you stopped wearing it?
Yeah, and I couldn't wear it again because I destroyed it, because I wanted to use the bricks for something else.
But this was the start of something, the first real invention that would lead to much bigger things. However, David still had more prejudice coming his way. I feel like teenage romances can be quite traumatic at the best of times, but when you were about 15, you went through this pretty brutal experience where not only were you rejected, but you were told very clearly why that was. What happened?
I was talking to a girl, and we kind of spoke for 4 months on WhatsApp. We met 2 or 3 times because we were very busy. I tried to make things work because I wasn't very sure she liked me, and one day I just got a message from her that said, hey David, we can see each other tomorrow because I have some friends that love me because I'm seeing a guy with no arm. And I was like, wait, really? Do you really care that much about others' opinions that you just